Valley Talk on News Talk 1580 KGAL.
Welcome to Valley Talk, and of course, it is time for Vet Talk. I'm Dave Adams, and in the studios with us right now, Victor Coons, host of the show. Reminder that the second Wednesday of every month, make a note on your calendar, is Vet Talk, where we get together and talk about issues affecting veterans. Victor has a guest in the studio, and we'll be getting to that in just a moment. First of all, we do want to give a big thank you to Quiznos in Albany for being a Valley Talk sponsor. This show, as with every show, we're going to be giving away a $10 gift certificate for Quiznos. It's Taste on Us. And at the end of the show, we'll draw the name out of those the entries that are submitted to us during the show. And that person will get a $10 gift certificate, good for anything in the store, sub sandwiches, chips, drinks, whatever. You can send it to dave@kgal.com or call the radio station at 926-KGAL or 451-KGAL. 926-KGAL, 451-KGAL, or send an email to dave@kgal.com. Put Quiznos Taste on Us on the subject line. At the end of this show, we're going to draw a name out of the hat for our first prize, and that will be a $10 gift certificate for Quiznos. Now, we also have a special treat this morning because it is Vet Talk, and we have a family 4-pack for the Oregon Coast Aquarium. This is complimentary passes. You and 3 of your best buddies can go on us to the Oregon Coast Aquarium in Newport, and we'll give away this to the first person that sends me an email, dave@kgal.com, and says, I want to go to the aquarium. I want to go to the aquarium. dave@kgal.com, the email address. First person that does that to get a family 4-pack to the Oregon Coast Aquarium, courtesy of KGAL and Vet Talk. Victor, thanks for being with us today.
Well, thank you for having us here today. We've got an agenda of things to talk about, but one of the things that I want to refresh out there in everybody's mind is about Vets Helping Vets HQ. And we're here in the Valley, as well as we spread out throughout the state, the southern part of Washington and the northern part of California. One of the things that I want to do through Vets Helping Vets HQ is I want to thank Home Depot for their participation with us and what they do to step forward and help veterans with their needs. One of the things that's coming up is Helping Vets HQ and Home Depot here in Albany, Oregon will be hosting an employment program for veterans on February 21st at 1 o'clock at the Albany store. Bring your DD-214, your resume, and we are going to have a representatives from Home Depot there that are going to be looking at your resumes, helping you fill out your applications, and they're looking for part-time spring and summer help. These can be disabled veterans. These are part-time positions from 20 to 30 hours a week to help a veteran through his needs while he's working on benefits, or he's going to school, he's getting an education, and trying to improve himself. Want to remind everybody that Vets Helping Vets HQ is not a program that does handouts, but we do a hand up. So if you're a veteran in need, we'd like you to contact us and want to get into the program with Home Depot. You can email me at Victor, V-I-C-T-O-R, Coons, K-U-H-N-S, at yahoo.com, or you can call 541-905-7237. Remember, Home Depot, being a partner of Vets Helping Vets, is there for the veterans. We also want to remind everybody that Vets Helping Vets HQ on the 28th of February will be holding their board meeting. We have it once a month. We invite veterans out to sit in on the board meeting, bring your thoughts and your ideas, how we can improve in helping veterans, whether it be getting benefits, advocating for them, or a veteran in need that may have a need out there, handicap ramp built or windows put in their home. If the need is there and they're a disabled veteran or a spouse, a widow of a disabled veteran, get a hold of us. We can tell you how to send in your request to us, and we will begin to work on it. Again, you can send those requests to Victor Coons, VICTORKUHNS, at yahoo.com. And also, remember, the board meeting is always open to any veteran out there or family member. We are also looking for volunteers that want to volunteer and come in. Starting in the middle of April, we are going to start holding advocate classes for veterans or their spouses that want to get into the program and become an advocate for veterans and families. And we can again tell you where and when those classes are going to start just by emailing us at victorcoons@yahoo.com or calling 541-905. This morning we have a guest speaker here, and he travels all over. He's a busy man, and how I got him, I'm very lucky. He's with the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs, and he's a very busy man, and he's come here today, and I've told him already, and I've let him know that I'm going to put him on the hot seat because I've got some issues that have to be addressed, and I felt that he was the man to do it. Tom Mann is the administrator of Veteran Services Division out of Salem at 700 Summer Street, and they also have advocates and VSOs, Veteran Service Officers, there to assist any veteran in the state of Oregon that needs assistance. They also have VSOs, Veteran Service Officers, placed in each and every county throughout the state. We have found that partnering with Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs has been a very good program, and that his people in Salem are always willing to help no matter where you're from or who you are. So if you have issues, contact Vets Helping Vets HQ at 541-905-7237. We can get you to one of our advocates. We can assist you in finding your evidence, your records, and what you need to be doing to have a successful claim, along with partnering with veteran service officers throughout the state and in Salem and Portland. So again, if you're having issues, give us a call. Tom, I brought you on today. How are you doing?
Good, Victor. Ready to go.
Ready to go. Tom, I have been approached by many veterans throughout the state on issues that are coming up. And these issues are PTSD, patients seeking counseling, and the Second Amendment rights. I'm going to give it to you for a few minutes. Tell us what we're looking at.
Okay, under the Brady Act, as you know, there was some language in there regarding mental health conditions and being able to own a firearm. And the concern, obviously, is if you have a diagnosed post-traumatic stress disorder condition or other conditions, you can come out of the service with personality disorder, bipolar conditions, all sorts of different things. The concern is that the VA will have to report to the government that you have this condition, and then you'll be barred from owning a firearm. That's not happening as of yet, but that's the big concern out there. I don't know, honestly, what's going to happen with that, and the concern that I have is like yours. We have been telling veterans since the beginning of the conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan to come see us. Let's get you the help you need. Let's get you reintegrated. If you need counseling or whatever it is you need, let's have you do this. But we know 10, 11 years into this that it's not always worked out well. As you know, there's been some people that are losing their jobs at the National Guard because they actually went to the VA, they were put on sleeping aids, they were given psychotropics for their condition, and then the National Guard said, well, now you're not deployable and you can't soldier for us, and they're releasing them. So there's all sorts of ambiguities here about whether folks are going to be able to feel comfortable getting the mental health they need and being able to have that health information protected from being reported down the road under whatever the federal government decides under the Obamacare and under what we're doing here in the state regarding mental illness. And whether really, here's an interesting part. Under the DSM-4, post-traumatic stress is considered a mental illness. Under the DSM-5, which is supposed to come out in April, they've taken it out. So post-traumatic stress disorder is not going to be considered a mental illness in the new DSM-5, is what I've heard. And if that's the case, I don't know how they would then tie those together because it's not diagnosable as a mental condition. And so a lot of things to be seen here in the next few months.
Under these mental conditions is what I've found in talking to counselors and psychologists that I work with in Portland at the Portland VA Hospital is the issue of not just the PTSD, post-traumatic post-traumatic stress disorder. But it's the consequences of what comes out of it, and the counselors or the doctors that go beyond the PTSD and start putting in bipolar, start putting in the words of depression, and from what they're concerned about, that I've heard and we're very worried about, is if these conditions are added into the diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, that changes the evaluation of what has to go out. And I've talked to several counselors that are very concerned about that under this new administration and the Obamacare program.
Well, I can address a little bit of that. One of the litmus tests we have at our department is whether you have suicidal or homicidal ideation. As you know, with post-traumatic stress and any of the diagnosed mental illnesses, there's levels of disability. You can be 0% service-connected for a post-traumatic stress, meaning you're pretty functional. You could be 30% service-connected for a post-traumatic stress. You're still pretty functional. It's when you start to get that suicidal ideation where people start worrying about a means for you to harm yourself or others. And that's where this little gray area comes in. When you're getting these other diagnoses, you could have depression, anxiety, panic attacks, personality disorders, bipolar conditions, schizophrenia, any number of diagnoses. When you get into the symptomology, a lot of it starts to look the same. And if you look at what PTSD and the symptomologies, there's about 20 different symptoms you can experience, and you have to experience a number of them together. But they look a lot like traumatic brain injury, for example, same kind of conditions. And they look a lot like depression, and it looks a lot like anxiety. And so what you have to make sure is that the diagnosing counselor is very clear-cut about what they're seeing and making a proper diagnosis, and not saying, well, the guy has post-traumatic stress and bipolar. Not likely. They have one or the other because the conditions themselves line up according to the DSM-4 the way it's supposed to.
So under the program, we need to watch very closely, is what you're saying, in how the counselors are putting these together.
Well, this is why you need advocates. When you get your rating decision from the VA, you need to take a look at it and make sure that the proper diagnosis was given during the compensation exams and by the physicians. You need to make sure that, I'll give you a great example. I was working with a veteran, Gulf War veteran, who came home. His mom and dad said, you know, you're really different. You need to go to a doctor. So he went to a private doc, and the doctor says, you're depressed. And he was on depression medication for 20 years before he met me. I meet him in my office. I said, is the medication working? He says, no. I said, you know why? He says, no. I said, you're not depressed. You have PTSD. And I just got him through the process through the VA, and they diagnosed him with post-traumatic stress, which is a separate regimen of medication and counseling than you would do for depression. And so for 20 years, this poor fella was misdiagnosed and not being treated the proper way. And so this is why you have to be really careful as an advocate to make sure you're taking a look at those records to make sure it's the proper diagnosis that meets the criteria of the DSM-4. And if there's any question about that, getting those second opinions, and because it's a disservice to the veteran not to be treated the way they need to be treated for that diagnosis.
If and when a veteran decides to go into counseling for PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, would you recommend that he seek an advocate from one of the organizations such as Vets Helping Vets HQ or Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs? When he starts counseling and while he's going through it?
Absolutely. First, you know, it's our creed. It's our culture that we don't leave anybody behind. And I would say I wouldn't want any veteran to be alone trying to go through this by themselves. They need somebody to mentor and walk through them with it. Second, it's very complicated. I did my claims work all on my own for years and years and years. And then I got a job at Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs, and I was stunned at how little I knew. And so having someone that is versed in the law, in the process, and can walk someone through how complicated and frustrating those VA letters can be and all those type of things. So I would say absolutely, you definitely want to reach out and get somebody to walk with you on this stuff.
Tom, I really, and I've got to ask this, and it is so important that these veterans know out there and that we get the word out to them. These veterans are, we're going to repeat ourselves, the Second Amendment rights. These veterans are terrified of losing their rights. What do we tell them?
Well, I know that some physicians are asking now, do you own a firearm? And I can only speak for myself as a veteran. I would not answer that question. I would tell them it's not their business whether I own a firearm or not.
There you go, veterans. You heard it from Tom Mann from Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs, and we're going to take a break right here and let you soak that up, and then we're going to be right back.
Business owners and managers, the Lebanon Chamber Biz Expo is Tuesday, April 16th. Now is the time to order quality promotional gifts from Gateway Imprints. For a limited time, pay just $75 for a 2-color 3x5 banner, or just $40 for 500 glossy single-sided business cards, and save 10% on printing your brochures. For more ideas, check out gatewayimprints.com or look inside the big cream and blue llama building at the corner of Ash and Park Streets, Lebanon. Gateway Imprints, imprinting the seeds for success.
That's someone enjoying a wonderful meal at McDonald's. That's someone enjoying a refreshing Coca-Cola for only $1. And that's the harmonious flavor of McDonald's and any size icy cold Coca-Cola soft drink or sweet tea for just $1. It's hard to describe it any other way. The simple joy of a la carte only. Prices and participation may vary. Limited time offer.
Some people don't get the Northwest. Sure, we're eccentric, but we take our food very seriously. That's why McDonald's new Fish McBites are perfect. Wild-caught Alaskan pollock that's totally delicious.
The catch that's caught here. McDonald's new Fish McBites. Flaky, bite-sized pieces of Alaskan pollock, cooked to crispy perfection. It's more fun flavor to love. And from February 12th through February 14th, a snack size is just $1.
If it's eccentric to take food seriously, who wants to be normal?
Limited time offer. Price and participation may vary.
Now, for a limited time, save $20 on radiator or transmission flushes at KGAL Tire Factory. And if you're watching your budget, ask about the latest variety of quality used passenger and light truck tires. For over 50 years, you've trusted KGAL to keep you and your family on the road. And KGAL services just get better and better. From tires to struts, brakes to free battery checks, even propane for your barbecue and RV. Still at the Y in Lebanon, the place to buy your tires and more is still KGAL Tire Factory.
Shop now, Lancaster Mall.
Enter to win the Lancaster Mall KGAL K-Show Valentine Getaway, valued at almost $500. Prizes include one-night stay at the Inn at Spanish Head Resort Hotel in Lincoln City, La Quinta Inn and Suites in Newport, Oregon Coast Aquarium tickets, flowers from Lollipops and Roses in Salem, and a delicious box of chocolates from Victorian Chocolate Factory in Lebanon. Sign up now to win a Valentine Getaway at the display near Bath & Body Works and the Lancaster Mall. Log on to KGAL.com for more info.
Lancaster Mall.
Do you want to get fresh with your Valentine? You can do that easily with fresh and beautiful flower arrangements from Flowers & More. Since 1991, Flowers & More have arranged thousands of flower arrangements, and every single one being fresh and arranged with pride. They are an FTD florist that ships anywhere, they deliver locally, and are easy to find just off Pacific Boulevard across from Pop's Branding Iron. Call Flowers & More at 541-928-8285. That's 928-8285. It's that simple.
The Car Show, Saturday afternoons on News Talk 1580, KGAL.
And we're back on the air here talking about Second Amendment rights and PTSD with Tom Mann from the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs out of Salem, Oregon. Tom, you mentioned that there was a class. What was it? You mentioned a 4, and it's going to go to a 5 next year or this year?
The DSM-4.
DSM-4.
That's the diagnostic code for all mental illnesses, and it lists what the illness is, how it's defined, all the symptomology, and the conditions that have to be met for someone to be diagnosed with that condition.
Okay, and DSM-5 is going to be removing PTSD from the list.
That's the rumble. I heard from a county veteran service officer who does mental health kind of work that was going to happen. I've not seen the DSM-5, so I don't know. I'm a little concerned about that, honestly. What happens if they remove it from the list and then all of a sudden we can't get it diagnosed and people can't get treated? I'm still a big believer that if you've served in a combat zone, and I don't care whether it's World War II, Korea, Vietnam, current conflicts, Gulf War, if you were in Bosnia, if you were in Somalia, if you were in Beirut, you were affected by your combat experience to some degree. And for those for whom it's lingering, whether it's at a functional level or a dysfunctional level, we need to get you the help you need. So I'm concerned about people being able to have a quality of life back here in the States that allows them to do the things that they want to do. So I am just an absolute proponent of saying people need to get the little bit of help that they need. But we have to be vigilant and say we've got to do that in a way that doesn't infringe on all their other rights. For example, if I'm in the Guard and I go get some PTSD counseling, that shouldn't affect my career. And those are the things that concern me, because I've had more Guard members tell me, no, they don't want to file a claim for an orthopedic issue, or they don't want to file a claim for PTSD, because I'm still in the Guard, and I'm concerned they're going to find out, and then I'll get kicked out. So there's some cultural things we got to work on. I understand the readiness piece for the Guard. They have to be ready to deploy and fight. Perfect, great. But I also understand that there is a fear people have of going to the VA or going and getting the treatment they desperately need because of, what about my Second Amendment rights? What about my job? What about the repercussions?
I'm getting a few have started coming in, Afghan and Iraq veterans that have been getting general discharges under honorable conditions. Basically an administrative discharge because they have went to the psychologists, counselors in the military. These are full-time soldiers, right, that immediately now are mandated to go to counseling and see a counselor when they come back from war. And if they are diagnosed by one of their counselors, they start immediately processing them out on administrative discharges. What do we tell those soldiers?
Well, here's the hard part. As the military is starting to downsize and they're going to do the force reduction, they're doing anything they can to lighten the load and get rid of people. And 5 years ago, this wasn't the case. You would go get your counseling, you get your post-deployment counseling, and everything would be fine. The concern, obviously, is the military still has a zero-defect mentality. You are great so long as you're a good troop. The second you're defective, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, whatever it is, you're done. And they cut ties with you. And so what we do with those folks, we have no control over what the military does. All we can do is wrap our arms around them when they come home and make sure when they have that general discharge under honorable conditions, we get them all the benefits they earned. The question's going to be about their GI Bill. Do they lose that because it's a general instead of an honorable, full honorable? So we have to do some fighting there. But yeah, here's the part that's hard. You get kicked out. One day, you're the top 1% of the military. The next day, they're kicking you out because you're defective. There's a huge depression issue goes along with that. And they come home onesies and twosies here to Oregon. There's no military base to support them. And all they have is us as the advocates. And so we need to find them, and we need to get our arms wrapped around them, and we need to mentor them, and we need to buddy up with them, and make sure that they get through this process, and they get this reintegration that they need. And we don't just let them go after 6 months. We stay with them for the next couple of years and make sure they do true reintegration.
Tom, one of the things that we're running into out there, and I'm getting calls every day. Yesterday I had 10 people in my office, veterans just walking in, that somebody's handed them my card on the street. And they're telling me that they're going to a lot of different places in the state of Oregon seeking help, that are advertising and promoting veterans help. And they're nonprofit organizations, and when they get a hold of them, all they end up with phone numbers. And they get really depressed because they're finding that these veterans programs are not actively putting their arms around the veteran and helping them. How are we going to get the word out there, or how are we going to stop these inactive programs that are hurting more veterans and helping them?
Yeah, that's really concerning for the agency where I work, because it's a little bit of a bait and switch. We're going to help veterans, and then they just get maneuvered around to nothing. What I tell every veteran, and we do the demobes, and we see these people when they come home, and we send them letters when they get back. You go see your county veteran service officer, you see your state veteran service officer, or you go see that national service officer with the VFW or the American Legion or the Purple Heart or VVA or whatever group it is, or you work with our partners, because there's a group of us that we know what we're doing, and we are going to do the right things by them. But there's a lot of fly-by-night guys out there trying to take advantage of, maybe there's a buck in this for them, and boy, that is just we just can't stand that. And we can't shut them down. They have the right to have a business, but we've got to do our job and make sure we steer them right.
I know I run in one of your people up in ODVA in Salem. contacted me 2 weeks ago. He was trying to find help for a veteran. You probably heard the story.
I know about this, yeah.
And got very frustrated and called me. Well, we got the help for him.
Yep.
He's having his heat pump put in this week.
Yep.
At no cost.
Right.
And that's been a concern with a lot of veterans. They've been out there seeking help, whether it be a wheelchair ramp or these kind of programs. And I know you guys get a lot of phone calls. Now I'm starting to get calls from your office. And that's been the concern. We have so many organizations out there that are not actively doing what they're saying. Is there anything that the veterans, the organizations like ODVA can do to start shutting some of these down?
No, we can't. We've actually talked to the Department of Justice, and we've talked to Secretary of State, who does the Corporations Division. People have a right to have a business. People have certain rights, and you can't just go shut their business down. Nonprofits, however, are being looked at very stringently. As a matter of fact, there have been 4 or 5 nonprofits that do veterans things in the state that have been shut down because exactly that. They raised a bunch of money, and none of it went to veterans. And so that's been a good thing. I think what we have to do is make sure that people understand within our reach of veterans who are good people to work with. When we reached out to you, it was because our program that we have just wasn't the right box. And so what we need to be able to do is understand that there is no one answer to helping veterans. There is no one person, one place that can help veterans. There's a whole bunch of people that can help veterans. But like I said, there are these fringe groups that are out there saying they're going to help veterans and they don't do it. We just need to make sure that through our networks, we get the word out to everybody. If you find any veteran out there who has been kind of bamboozled, you get them to us, and we'll take care of them.
And because, like I say, you know and I know that this has been an issue ongoing for years. With a state the size of Oregon, with over 330,000 veterans in the state, and more coming home every day, and we're having less than 130,000 veterans using the programs that are available, whether it be education, disability benefits, or medical, right. in a total package. And when we have over 2/3 of our veterans that are floundering out there, it's becoming very concerning. I know to you folks up there at Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs, but also to Vets Helping Vets HQ, we're finding veterans that are still Vietnam era, Korean era veterans that still today did not know they had benefits coming. And a lot of them have reached out at different times in their life and didn't know. But most of all that's concerning right now, and I'm hoping Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs will find a way that we can start assisting, is not our National Guard, because I'm finding more and more our National Guard is getting more information about benefits, right, because of your department reaching out before they get out. I've been asked to come and speak to several of them. Right. But the concerning part is our veterans coming home from full-time military active service and when they walk out the door, they know less than they did when they went in. And these are the veterans that are getting hurt. How do we get the Department of Defense, the full-time military, to say, Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs, bring your programs to our bases, sit down with our veterans, bring your people in? What do we have to do to get them to start bringing us in?
I tell you, from my perspective, we're going backwards, not forwards. There was just announced this week that the computer system that DOD and VA were going to collaborate on to make sure they shared information, they decided it didn't work and they're not going to do it. That is a huge problem of sharing information. The Department of Defense doesn't invite any of the organizations to come do these briefings. Sometimes big VA gets to do that. But here's the real problem. When you get out of the military, you can sign a document saying, please send my DD-214 to my State Department of Veterans Affairs. We get about 6,000 of those a year, between 5,000 and 6,000. In 2012, we got about 6,000, and then I learned from Department of Defense that actually 12,000 people came home to Oregon. So there were 6,000 veterans that came back to Oregon we knew nothing about. Don't know where they are, don't know who they are, don't know where they live, don't know how to reach out to them. and certainly they don't know how to get their benefits. 6,000. Now, the military is going to downsize, and they're going to do a force reduction, and Oregon's going to get about 30,000 new veterans back in that downsizing. And if only half of them tell us where they are, that's going to be 15,000 new veterans that don't know anything about their benefits. It just is a tsunami for us trying to figure out how are we going to reach out. We do public relations campaigns. We do all sorts of things in the communities through the CVSOs. But remember when you got out. I remember when I got out. I didn't want anything to do with the government. I was done. I came home. I wanted to drink a beer, eat some pizza, kind of figure out what I was going to do, either go back to school, get a job, whatever it was. VA and all that nonsense was the last thing on my mind. And I think a lot of our veterans are that way. They come home and they just want to be left alone. And they did their time, and it's time for them to move on and do other things. It's not till several years down the road where that knee starts bothering them, or their marriage is on the rocks because of the post-traumatic stress, and the wife says, hey, it's either me or you get some counseling. That's when it happens. So we don't see veterans traditionally right after their service. We see them 5, 7, 10 years down the road. And as you know, you've been in my office when the World War II veteran comes in and says, I want hearing aids, and we look at his separation documents, and he landed at D-Day and fought through the Ardennes and battled the Bulge all the way up the Rhine. And we say, you should have been getting benefits for 65 or 70 years. Oh, I just need hearing aids. That happens routinely. The Vietnam generation had such a bad experience when they came home that they are so reticent to come and get their benefits that are due them. They find now that the system, when they do come, works really well, and it's not anything like it used to be. But their memory of it is so bad, and they're so angry about what happened to them, and rightfully so, that it's hard to get them in. So we have a lot of work to do in terms of being advocates, reaching out, finding those 230,000 veterans that don't have their benefits, and doing something about it. That is our passion. That is our mission at the department, is to find those people and make sure, men and women, because we forget about the 25,000 women veterans that served that are in Oregon right now. We got to get all of them in and make sure that they're assessed for everything that they earned when they raise their right hand, and get them all those benefits.
Well, Tom, you brought that up, and that just opened up a new door for me to walk into, and that is the paperless veterans registry to get benefits. And I know that they're really pushing that, and they're headed for that. And our veterans have a real concern. So when we come back from our break, we are going to be talking about that. Thank you, and we'll be right back.
The Osgood File is sponsored in part by Regis. Let Regis help you to focus on your business while they take care of your workspace needs. Get 2 months free on a fully wired and furnished office. Call 1-800-OFFICES. This is Charles Osgood. 2 British designers have come up with a wonderfully low-cost, low-tech, high-impact source of light for a third of the people on Earth. It requires no batteries, no kerosene or fuel of any kind, and there's no running out of what it runs on, which is gravity. Jim Reeves is one of the 2 creators.
So the product consists of the generator ambient light unit. It's shipped in a very robust bag which takes ballast. You take it out of its bag, you fill this bag with gravel, sand, soil. You attach the bag, you hang the product, and when you lift the bag, then you have your light source.
More after this. Businesses, from startups to Fortune 500 firms, have something in common. They're intentional, they focus on success, and they don't get distracted. And many successful businesses have something else in common. They work from a Regis office. Your beautifully furnished wired Regis office can be ready when you need it, with a receptionist, access to meeting rooms, and state-of-the-art video conferencing, all with no long-term lease. Regis is the new way to work. Call 1-800-OFFICES and get 2 months free when you mention Osgood. That's 1-800-OFFICES. In this moment, who has your back? An insurance company delivering excellence during your claims process? Auto Owners Insurance has been recognized as highest in customer satisfaction with the auto insurance claims experience 5 years in a row by J.D. Power and Associates. Let an Auto Owners independent insurance agent have your back, so when the unthinkable happens, you get the claim service you deserve. For J.D. Power and Associates award information, go to jdpower.com. Find your local independent agent at autoowners.com. The Gravity Light is designed to sell for around $5. Each 3-second pull on the bag produces a half hour of useful light. It's cheaper than solar technology. Co-creator Martin Ritterford can explain that.
The trouble with solar technology is that you have to charge a battery with the solar power that you've gained from the sun, then use the battery power to power at night. So it was really important to find the cheapest way of supplying reasonable quality light to these people.
To these people, the gravity light can be a giant leap forward. Right now, says Jim Reeves,
A third of the world's population is off-grid. So you've got large communities across Africa and India and South America and even Northern Europe and into Russia where power is either intermittent or absent. So we want to take a large number of the devices out to the intended end users, get feedback on how the product would perform in the field. It's very different from the conventional solutions that people will be familiar with.
to them, changing the world is, to use our late colleague Eric Severid's phrase, not so wild a dream. The Osgood File. I'll see you on the television come Sunday morning on CBS. This is Charles Osgood on the CBS Radio Network.
Going out to lunch at a nice restaurant can be expensive, and the big portions put you more in the mood for a nap than a productive afternoon. Mama's Fine Italian to the rescue. The small appetite senior menu is just right. Anyone and everyone is invited to order from the Light Appetites menu for lunch from 11 to 4 p.m. with tasty entrees beginning at only $3.95. Why go hungry or go anywhere else for lunch? Eat healthy, eat light at Mama's. Closed Sunday and Monday, so make the most of Tuesday through Friday and join your friends at Mama's for lunch. Dinner only on Saturday. Mama's features charbroiled steaks every day. Make reservations for dinner or pick up a bottle of fine wine. Seating is limited, so please call for reservations. 541-451-5050. That's 451-5050. Mama's Fine Italian and Wine Shop on West Oak between Main and 2nd in Lebanon, across from the Big Blue Napa Auto Parts building.
Banking these days can be pretty impersonal. You've got your big banks, your internet banks, your do-it-yourself banks, and your too big to fail banks. That's wwhy you might be interested in an alternative. Willamette Community Bank. Hello, this is Bill Higbee, residential lender. You deserve better service without sacrificing a thing. So if you're feeling underserved, make the switch to the best banking option out there with branches in Albany and Lebanon.
Willamette Community Bank. Service like no other. We promise. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
Into the woods and onto the waters. Listen to Northwestern Outdoors, Saturday nights on Smart Talk 1580.
And we're back on the air here again with Tom Mann from Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs. And Tom, I just brought up an issue to you before we left. Can you comment?
Absolutely. So VA is going to go paperless, and this has been something that's been in the works for a couple years. What they want veterans to do is get online through what they call e-benefits, and they have a portal called VBMS. And what they want to do is you just fill out your own paperwork, you submit your own evidence, and you file your own claim. It's a way that VA says will speed up the process. And so we were very curious about that and asked them the $24,000 question for us is, well, where does the advocate come in? They said, oh, when the veteran turns in all their stuff, they can choose an advocate. And we said, what if they don't do their claim right? How much time is it going to take us to undo the work that they didn't know how to do? The reason there are advocates is because they aren't experts in the law. They aren't experts in claims work. They don't know what's claimable and what's not claimable. That's why we exist. And they said, well, we're going to make sure your systems talk to our systems when we do this. Well, that didn't happen. And so I've told Kevin Kalama, who's the regional, I think he's the deputy director now, acting deputy director at the regional office for VA. I love Kevin. We work closely together, but I told him ODVA will not be using your electronic system. We will be doing hard claims the way we're doing it until you allow our computer systems to talk to yours so that we can still have a veteran in our office, work with them on their claims work, read their files, do all the work we do, and submit a claim electronically. My concern, honestly, is this. When I got out of the Army and I filed my claim, I went through VA. I actually went right to the VA office and had a counselor there help me with it. I didn't know what I didn't know. And one of the things I didn't know was I got a rating of 30% when I first got out into the VA. The Army gave me 20. What I didn't know and no one told me, and I found out years later, was had the Army given me 30%, I would have been a retiree. And the reason the Army kind of lowballed me was because I didn't get to be a retiree. I didn't get TRICARE. I got nothing. And VA gave me 30. Well, I should have repealed that. I had no idea how to do that. I didn't have an advocate. I was on my own. So I get very concerned about veterans coming home, especially wartime veterans, not knowing about secondary conditions, not knowing about presumptive conditions, not knowing about... We have that Navy SEAL that was SEAL Team 6 on the Bin Laden raid that didn't know he had health care. You're going to allow this guy to file his own claim via this VBS system without an advocate? personally, as an advocate, I think that's crazy. I understand why VA wants to do it. They're way behind in claims work. They want to speed the process up. Sometimes we advocates get in the way because we claim more stuff than maybe the veteran would themselves. But I think it's a complete disservice to the veteran to say, you're on your own, good luck.
Well, it's like I tell a lot of them. You would not walk into a courtroom without a lawyer.
Right.
And nobody should walk into the VA without an advocate.
That's right.
And every veteran out there is entitled to that representation.
How many fights have you and I had with the VA over the years where we've walked in there and gone toe-to-toe with them on an issue behind closed doors to try to get something worked out? Because they don't see it the same way we do, because their worldview is more corporate, our worldview is more tip of the spear. And then we come to some agreement and they agree we were right.
And that's why it's so important that we get the word out there to these veterans, that when you hear, go home, pull up on your computer, type it out, first thing you do is call one of the VSOs, veteran service officers, before you do that, or contact Tom Mann.
That's right.
That Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs. He's going to tell you to slow down, come and see me.
That's right.
Or come out here and see myself or one of our advocates at Vets Helping Vets.
Give you an example. I had a woman that was at a base. She had a military sexual trauma. We got her out of the military. She came to my office. We were going to file a claim for post-traumatic stress due to military sexual trauma. But I did a full assessment, and I found out there were 7 other issues she needed to claim aside from the rape that took place. And nobody would have known that if she had filed that claim herself via the electronic filing.
And this is why it's so important for everybody to continue to use advocates.
Yep.
And because they will fight for you, they'll work for you, they'll find things that you have overlooked because of the way the VA is going to go with their new program of wireless filing. And so these are going to be important issues that we need to pay attention to. Tom, I'm going to give you just a few minutes here, and I want you to explain to the veterans where they can go to get the help if they need it today.
Before you say that, let's talk about advocates. I think just want to point something out. The advocates, like advocates that help with Vets Helping Vets HQ, you do not get paid. So the only motivation you have is you want to help veterans.
We have a saying that we've had ever since we were in the military. We have your 6. Mm-hmm. We are covering your back. You contact us, we will help you. We are not a paid organization.
Right.
Not even the board of directors get paid. Everybody in Vets Helping Vets HQ is a volunteer. And we're all over the state. We're reaching out for more to train. Tom Mann has graciously come in and has done training. I'm sure he'll be back to do more training. We now have partnered with Portland VA Hospital Mental Health.
Yep.
They're going to be coming in and talking about DNC codes and training for PTSD, as we talked about earlier in the show. So our program is all volunteer, and yes, it does take donations from the public out there, from businesses like Home Depot, Stutzman and Croft. I want to thank them because they step up and do a lot of the labor work. But we have a program that we feel works, and I got a call from Texas the other day, Arlington, Texas, that's seen us on Fox News down there about Vets Helping Vets HQ, and wanted to know how they could partner up with us and bring our program down there to them.
It's fantastic.
So we feel good about what we're doing with our veterans. But Tom, you at Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs are going through some major changes.
We are.
One of the changes is, and I want to thank somebody out there, he's a very dear friend of mine, Jim Willis, the Director of Department of Veterans Affairs. I believe he leaves March 1st. March 1. And he has been there for a veteran, hands down. The man tirelessly worked himself for every veteran. And I know that he'll never stop, even when he retires.
Right.
But he's done a wonderful job. Tom, we got some new people coming in there.
Yes.
We're getting a new assistant director.
We got a deputy director. His name's Ed Van Dyke. Many may know him. He used to be the manager of the Portland Claims Office. So very versed in veteran benefits issues, and it's great to have him in the deputy slot because he knows all the ins and outs of how that liaison work with the federal VA works, and is in the middle of all the negotiations with us. So that's fantastic. And then Cameron Smith, Governor's policy advisor on veterans and military, a Marine Corps veteran, hoorah, is going to be our new director. Great guy. He has been around the Salem for, I don't know, past 4 years since getting out of the Corps. And so we're just moving forward and looking forward to helping as many vets as possible.
Well, when we come back from our break, we're going to talk about the changes in ODVA and some of the new policies coming up. So we'll be right back.
Just 3 programs remain in this year's concert season of the Corvallis OSU Symphony Orchestra. The next performance is next Wednesday evening, February 20th, 7:30 at the LaSalle Stewart Center. Since its inception in 1906 as a collegiate orchestra composed of 9 members, the symphony has grown into a highly regarded 80-member ensemble. Next Wednesday's concert features works by Strauss and Tchaikovsky. Jessica Lambert will be the featured violinist on Strauss' Ein Heldenleben, and Mary Angela Vacatello will be the featured pianist on Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1. Dr. Marlon Carlson conducts. Tickets are available at Grace Winds Music and Grassroots Books and Music in Corvallis, and they're available online at cosusymphony.org. Make it a special evening. Come enjoy the Corvallis OSU Symphony Orchestra next Wednesday evening, February 20th, 7:30 at the LaSalle Stewart Center on the OSU campus.
Awesome Dufour knows it's those little things that make a difference. That's why at Awesome Dufour Funeral Home, they'll take your treasured pictures and create a professional quality DVD of your loved one. Why settle for a slideshow when you can have so much more? Creating that special memorial that allows you to celebrate life. Service beyond your expectations is what you get when you call on Awesome Dufour Funeral Home. Awesome Dufour on Ellsworth in Albany.
If you have lived in the Mid-Willamette Valley for just a short time or possibly most of your life, you probably know a lot about Mennonite Village of Albany. In fact, their reputation is well known throughout the Pacific Northwest. They are a faith-based community in the Mennonite tradition of faith, family, and friendship. As a continuing care retirement community, they provide housing and support services designed to meet the changing needs of persons of all faiths and beliefs. The Mennonite Village offers a variety of retirement living arrangements, including active living homes, congregate living apartments, assisted living apartments, Alzheimer's and dementia care, and nursing and rehabilitation. As a nonprofit organization, their rates for these services are quite reasonable. Right now is a perfect time to contact Gene Stutzman for a tour of the Mennonite Village to check them out at 5353 Columbus Street Southeast in Albany. Online at MennoniteVillage.org or call 541-928-7232. That's 541-928-7232.
For too long, we've spent our weekends searching for the right tool when we should have been using the right tool. It's time to go to Ace. We'll find Craftsman tools the second we walk in. We can fix that wobbly table and still have time for televised sports. Get your weekend back.
Ace is the place for Craftsman tools.
And Economy Supply is your Ace place in the Mid-Valley to get them. Economy Supply Building and Contractor Center, where Highway 34 becomes Tangent Street in Lebanon.
Ace, the helpful place.
Yahoo Sports Radio, weekends on 1580 KGAL.
Yahoo!
For the last part of this show, and we're with Tom Mann, and I've asked Tom to kind of tell us some of the new changes and procedures that are happening in the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs. Of course, I've asked him before, and I'm putting him on the spot here today because he said, oh, everything's going to stay the same. Tom, everything changes under new administration.
Before that, let's mention Troy Ross won the aquarium ticket, so congratulations, Troy.
Absolutely, Troy. Enjoy the aquarium. So I want you to tell us some of the new things you're going to see coming down at Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs.
Sure. I was in a meeting yesterday with the National Guard, and they've had their J9 and their yellow ribbon and their reintegration team and all the things that they've been doing, and their latest program is called Strengthening Communities. They're concerned because with sequestration, which is the budget cuts coming and possibly the October 1 budget cuts coming, their organization's going to shrink because the federal funding for a lot of that post-deployment type of things are shrinking. So in the meeting I was in, Jim Booker from the Employment Department was there. Cameron Smith, our incoming director, was there. We talked about what ODVA does in terms of maybe picking up the mantle on some of that, because if the National Guard can't do that mission anymore, or has a diminished role in that mission because of the funding, the need doesn't go away, the mission doesn't go away. So employment and a couple of us folks kind of got together and talked afterwards and said, we may have to pick up more of that reintegration. How do we help veterans get into the programs that exist? Because over the past 10 years, they've done a lot of great work in reintegration. They really have. So the question is, what's still existing and how do we plug people in? If the Guard's not going to be taking the lead on that, like I said, the mission doesn't go away, so someone's got to pick that up. So that's one thing. I think you're going to see a renewed push on outreach. One of the bills that passed last session was we were to provide food banks, information to provide to veterans who use the food banks. Here's a stunning number. They said 30% of the people using food banks were veterans. I was overwhelmed by that number. And so we know that there's a ton of work to do to reach out to the at-risk community. I talked to the Department of Corrections the other day, and they told me there are 2,186 incarcerated veterans. And they gave me a list, and it tells me their release dates. And we work with incarcerated veterans when they're re-entering into society to make sure that they can get their veteran benefits turned back on and get some help. Because recidivism, one of the biggest issues of recidivism is you don't have any finances, you don't have a job, you can't afford to live anywhere. And so we help that with veteran benefits. So our big push, at least from my division, is twofold. Increase the quality of the claims work. We need to do a better job. We need to do a better job writing our claims. We need to write better, what I would call legally sufficient claims. So when we're giving things to the VA, it makes it much more clear that within the law, what we're asking for is an eligible benefit. Two, we need to find more veterans. I just did a study from 2005 to 2012. Who have we been seeing as veteran advocates around the state, the CVSOs in the state? And what I found was most of the work, the majority of the work we've been doing, have been old veterans. We've been maintaining our old veteran list. We're not going out and finding all sorts of new veterans. And so in April, we're actually having a conference with our county veteran service partners, and we're going to talk about how are we going to find new veterans and not just maintain our old veteran clients, because that doesn't move us forward. We need to make sure our old veteran clients are taken care of. But that's not a hard job, honestly. That doesn't take much time. If you come in and say, I want to increase on my knee, great, take me 15 minutes to write that up. I need to find those new veterans, whether they're World War II, Vietnam, Korea, someone who's never filed a claim, but finally is at that place where they need help. And we need to go find those people. And we need to be proactive, and we need to get out of our offices, and we need to go find them.
Well, Tom, whatever Vets Helping Vets HQ can do for you, we'd be more than happy to help you, because that's our main goal, is to reach out to the new ones. And like I said, yesterday I had 5 new Iraq and Afghanistan vets come in that somebody handed them my card and said, you've got benefits coming. Go see these people.
Well, this is why the partnership works so well. You find them, and then you send them to our way. I mean, I don't know how many of your clients I've seen. I think I see everyone you meet. And it's great. Get them in my office, and we start pounding out the work for them. But it's going to take that kind of partnership. We were talking during the break about not one organization has the reach to meet all the veteran needs. And that's why we need to partner together, and we need to make sure we're working together to do all the right stuff.
Okay, we're going to be coming out to the end of the show here, and I want to thank Tom Mann from Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs coming in and spending this last hour with us and getting out this information to our veterans. Remember, veterans, you have a right. You have the rights that the Constitution of the United States gives you. You need to seek out your advocates, find out how those rights you can maintain them. So we are going to spend the next month on the road, and we'll see you again in April. Have a good day. This is Victor with Vets Talk on KGAL 1580.
Serving the Mid-Valley for over 50 years. You're listening to News Talk 1580 KGAL, Lebanon, Albany, Corvallis.